All right, hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of ValueCast. It's the video/podcast where we talk about people, services across procurement, workforce, anything really that I enjoy talking about and want to learn about. Um, Today's topic, we're going to take a dive into a specific procurement, I suppose, more business function around what we call just in time versus just in case. I'm not the expert on this. I've learned a lot. You can see a gentleman with me, Stefano. Stefano, nice to have you on ValueCast.
Hi, Alex. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. God, when did we meet? I think it was summer last year we started conversing, didn't we? And then we had a nice
Year-ish, yeah.
a nice coffee together, and it was I really enjoyed, listening to your history, your background, how you got where you are, and I think it would just be valuable for you to do, to do the similar thing on here, so people know why you're talking about this topic.
Sure. So I'm a chief operating officer focused on B2B tech company, and I have experience from anything ranging from manufacturing to immersive theater, which was probably the coolest project I had. All my clients, I had similar issues. They wanted to grow. They had, of course, issues with go-to-market, issues with organizations, with processes and operations. So at the moment, I am serving at Megatron Sensors, a growing technology manufacturer based in Italy, but exporting all over the world. But I also have founded Accelerate, which is a way for me to provide fractional COO services or CCO services on the side.
Great stuff. And I think you've been working, you've been working in Accelerate the business for what, a good 10 years now, I think, from what.
Yeah. Basically, I used to work in the telco industry before. My background is in strategy and product management. And at that time, that industry was aging really badly, wasn't really attracting young talent. Innovation was pushed through the suppliers. Competitive advantage lasted maybe 8 months if you were lucky, but the product development cycle were like 12 plus months. So there was no way to win that game. At the time, I had just finished my MBA, and I went rogue, as I like to joke. So I decided to launch my business, which is exactly Accelerate. And around that time, I started collaborating with Megatron as well. So it's a long-term relationship now.
Yes, yeah, and especially does help with the fact that you're based in London, but you're obviously a born and bred Italian man, and working with an Italian business looking to expand into Europe is an ideal match in a way. So that's great. And I'm sure as we dig through this topic, you're probably going to have some examples and things from what you're currently doing and what you have done in the past. But thanks, that was a good intro. So just to sort of position this, the reason why we're talking about it is I'm trying to educate myself on a lot of areas of procurement that I don't know about, but I also see extreme value. And when you look at just in time, just in time's been around, I think, since the 70s. I think Toyota, were a company that first sort of looked at implementing that process. But obviously, as time's evolved, we've now got more what we call a just in case process. And I don't think, when I look at a lot of people within sort of services and sourcing, depending on the industry you're in, you may not be aware of this, right? If you're in manufacturing, of course, it's something that you should be au fait with, but actually, how is it evolving? How is it changing? So it really spiked my interest. And when we started talking, I thought it would be very good to share. So why don't we start just, from your expertise, sort of give a good summary of what just in case versus just in time is.
Yes. I mean, just in time is, as you said, it's been the standard. I heard the first time of just in time during my university years by my economy professor. I was attending engineering, by the way, but we had an economy course. And Toyota, as you said, it's about keeping a minimal stock. So you order goods only when needed to meet your demand. So you reduce your holding cost, you reduce your cash flow, so you increase your free cash flow. But of course, just in time, that makes your supply chain very exposed. You pay that in terms of less resilience in the supply chain, because everything goes wrong, either with you or with one of your suppliers. That system it has an impact on that. With just in case, I came across the concept during the pandemic years, while reading The Economist. I thought it was just an example of their witty humor, but it's actually something more serious than that. And it's about basically managing the stock in a different way. You hold more stock, you hold more raw material, and that increases your resilience. But of course, the flip side of that is that you have higher cost, or maybe if you want, you keep more stock, so your stock value is higher at any point in time, which means that you get more cash trapped in the stock. But let's say maybe we will discuss this. We made a virtue out of a necessity, as we say in Italy, and of course, if you strike the right balance, that will help your business and your customers alike.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept, because it's sort of, just in time. Obviously, they're both sort of demand driven, but one, when I look at it from an outside view, just in time is sort of taking it closer to the fine line of really managing your stock to a very low percentage, of what you need, versus just in case, which maybe adds a little bit less risk, but financially, it gives it does mean financially, obviously there's a bit more support funding you need to put towards it. Like, how do businesses how do you evaluate which is best for you? Like,
I can tell you why we basically implemented just in case. And the background is, a small manufacturer headquartered in Italy, growing fast, selling worldwide, and then comes 2020, and we have the pandemic. If you remember, after a bit, I don't remember if before or after, we had also a ship stuck in the Suez Canal.
We did,
and of course, that for us was a supply shock. And at that time, I remember we felt guilty, because one of my tasks was to reduce the inventory. We had a huge inventory, too much, because maybe in the past something went wrong, a bit of FOMO, let me say. But I was working to reduce the inventory. We were all feeling guilty that we were not just in time. And then, of course, we got the supply shock, and we realized that some of our competitors were completely stuck. Although, because in China, if they had to close down the businesses, they didn't give much notice, literally. So we had one day, and the next day our suppliers was closed. And so we realized that we could actually survive with our stock. Of course, the mix wasn't perfect. And so we said, okay, why not, rather than aiming for a just-in-time type of approach, having something around maybe 8-9 months of equivalent stock? And of course, these 8-9 were for us. For others, could be 6 or 4 or 12. It doesn't. There's not a universal rule. But for us, that allowed us to survive through the pandemic. And actually, those were actually the years where we grew the most. We had like a very high double-digit growth in 2021, for example.
Right.
And today, I would say, where the globalization is slowing. We are trying to decoupling from China as a kind of geopolitical theme. You can't do that 100%. You can't back up China if you are as small as we are. But I would say the landscape has changed. So a more cautious approach to the inventory is something I would recommend.
Yeah. So yes, just in time's been around for many years, but the pandemic, the situation in obviously in Ukraine and in other places that we see around the world, they do impact supply, don't they, and demand. So it's a fine balance.
In a way, you can't always foresee. I mean, we realize how much we are immersed in the here and now and what happens in the world, because of course the pandemic, we had the ship stuck in the Suez Canal, and today we have, of course, the Red Sea is not a safe route, and so now we have longer delivery time. So that's a kind of supply shock. Of course, the pandemic now was a wave moving westbound, so we had the supply shock and then a demand shock. Maybe we might have tariffs coming up. There is a bit more protectionism on the horizon. So yeah, the landscape has changed, is a bit more less easy, I would say, compared to maybe the early 2000s or the 90s doing business. And so you need to, especially if you are small, you need to do something and be create your cushion.
No, I agree. It's really, it's really interesting because obviously you've got your client side demand, but then the supply chain, which unfortunately sometimes get overlooked, that they are actually your clients as well in a way, right? They're just as important for you to fulfill what you're doing from your demand perspective. But when you look at the sort of ecosystem you have with your supply chain, how do you think just in case sort of helps, I suppose, build a stronger ecosystem, a stronger supply chain versus just in time?
Yeah, I mean, it's you kind of rekindle your relationship with the suppliers, I think. And first of all, there's another important thing. With just in case, you still need to have a strong interlock between sales and procurement if you look at your organization. So, i.e., supply and demand, and you need to have a very healthy relationship with your suppliers. For example, during the pandemic, we decided to always pay on time because cash. I mean, it's all about cash, right? So, and how can I say? Tough times test the relationships and make them stronger or not. And that was when we decided to invest in the supplier ecosystem, but also in our people. So we didn't follow anyone for the sake of we just braced for impact basically at the time. That was a decision together with the CEO and the property of the company, the ownership of the company, we always been open in terms of communication, collaboration. When you negotiate, you don't shadow box. No, you are honest about what you need. When there's also a way to keep your suppliers in competition, but in a healthy way. And so we started looking at the raw materials we were purchasing in huge quantities. And of course, there's a common theme, whether just in time or in case of reducing the dependency of one supplier, of course, from one supplier, as well as recurring purchasing. So these get easy. It's easy to forget them because it's just a small thing, but they are recurring. So maybe there is some of your customer, they are buying a lot of something else, but then they need that one at that point in time, and you don't want to disappoint them. And so we structure basically our procurement in a strategic and recurring, and basically put in place a sort of algorithm based on demand analysis, thresholds, and delivery times, so that we could keep that demand reasonably in check. And it's working. I mean, it's not a linear function, no. But we are still around the 9 month. So yeah.
No, and the fact is you've got a clear goal and vision from a stock perspective. But I think you hit the nail on the head here, because it's funny how a lot of discussions I have about maybe specific topics or obviously talking about demand planning here specifically, but actually if you peel it all back, if your stakeholder team is not aligned, and if your operations aren't working in the way they do, and if you're not managing the relations with your with your supply correctly. Obviously, you need to do the right things, right? You need to pay them correctly. You need to, you need to do the basics. But if you're not being open and really building that relationship, your suppliers are going to go off somewhere else, right? They'll having them invested in your business and knowing what you're doing and how you're doing it is quite critical. And it sounds like that's something that you're quite passionate about and that you do in your current role.
Yes, I mean the my by nature, but I think I am really kind of, I look forward. No, so during the pandemic, of course, there was a bit of panic. What do we do? What will happen? Well, will it end? And but that's exactly when you need to have the first of all the mental strength before having the cash. I think it's a mental thing. It's a kind of attitude to say, okay, let's have a long-term approach to this, because bumps on the road will always happen. No, we will always no. When you talk to a supplier, for example, in the negotiations, what I like to do is talk about issues, not positions, right? So, and if they understand that, all the discussions are much easier. And you can now negotiate as fiercely as you want on the unit price, but that's not really the only thing you should look at. There's a whole thing. In some cases, we prefer to pay maybe a little bit more in return of long-term relationship, and you don't want to squeeze your suppliers because the next day, if they find a better customer, they might make other choices. It's a two-way relationship. It's not
Definitely.
You turn a supplier more into a partner. So it's a
and when you're building, if you look at your current situation, when you're building a business that's looking to geographically expand, the relationships with those supply chains becomes even more important, right? And also, the opportunity for them, right? It's finding the right suppliers and keeping the right suppliers versus, just looking at cost cutting. So you seem very, very much more focused on the value than you do, the bottom line so much. Obviously, the bottom line is important, right? But if you're truly not getting the value you expect, and it's interesting you mentioned, so with that basis of using just in case, I suppose, you are asking for more stock from your providers, and they're trusting you to be able to deliver I suppose the release of that stock versus what you might be called a more sort of cost efficient way, which might be the just in time, because they'll be like, right, well, we only want to send stock that we know is going to get sold. We don't really want to send you a bunch of stock that we might get back because you're not doing a good job at selling your business. So I suppose in a way that's also shows some trust in the relationship of, we're taking this approach because we believe you're a good supplier, and you need to trust us that we're doing a good job at selling our business. So, there's a long-term thing. Is that a fair summary of how you would?
Yes, I mean, you know what? There is if you want the dark side of just in time, is like you are throwing the hot potato and shifting the inventory management almost to your suppliers, right? I want the thing, only the thing I need when I need them. Yeah. And of course your customers are probably doing the same with you. So there was a time during the pandemic we were good at educating our customers, and so they started planning long term. Now the pendulum is swinging back to we receive an order today for probably most cases a delivery in 3 months, the latest. So it's difficult for us to plan. But I think that 3 months is enough for us to see how the demand oscillates, and to then turn that in orders or not to our suppliers. But yeah, it's if you want, with the hot potato thing, we keep the hot potato a bit, and we shift it when it's a bit less hot to our suppliers. So we act as a buffer in between, because if you want our inventory act as a buffer in a kind of reasoned, planned, just in case, shouldn't give an idea is happy-go-lucky. It's really something engineered to be in a certain way.
No, that's good. I quite just use the reference of hot potato. I was, for some brain, I was thinking, it was more like being in a hot pan of pasta water that you needed to get out of quickly. Um, I was many years ago, I was told off by one of my Italian friends for cooking spaghetti the wrong way, and not hot enough water and things like that. So hence why I was referring to an Italian type approach. Good stuff. That's really good. And one thing I do see that you spend a lot of time sharing your knowledge on LinkedIn and other things is technology as well. You seem very focused on AI. You seem very focused on, okay, great, we've got this process, but let's think about how we can do it better and better and better by utilizing technology. Like where does technology fit within this stack for you?
Yes, I mean, in general, I well, with my COO hat, I want to optimize, streamline, and automate as much as possible. But
That was a good standard. That was a good standard COO response. Well done.
but there is a but. No, the road to technology, I think, goes through people and data first.
Okay.
So I think for example, what I tell my people is always, if you do something once, twice, the third time you realize it's always the same, document it,
Yep.
screenshot, recording, whatever bullet point, because that's first of all, we have a kind of draft documentation of the process. But second, that's not the next time we can think using Copilot, whatever sort of AI, or maybe just robotic process automation. Yeah, we could automate and free time for us. Now, the what I'm trying to instill is that now AI will not fire anyone. Technology will not fire anyone. Automation will not fire anyone. But those who can use AI, automation, and technology will probably fire someone. So we'd better learn, because this is something that it's not like the pandemic or the ship in the Suez Canal that it happened. We couldn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
In 10 years, we couldn't say, "Oh, I didn't see it." Yeah, it's here, it's everywhere. So we need to learn. Yeah, and so that's the approach. So for me, technology, these are not IT project or these are ways to solve business issues. So we always start from the business issues and with the people on board. On the data side, I wanted to, of course, I could tell you about all sort of software for supply chain management and demand, and but especially if you are small like we are, and we were smaller a few years ago, you don't really need if you have a good, that's why I mentioned data. If you have a good database, and we have an ERP that unifies everything from what I call cocktail to cash. So there's the CRM part.
Yeah.
And now you can turn a proposal into an order, and then goes to invoicing, and everything is there. So we have one source of truth.
Right.
Then, of course, spreadsheets will never die, I think. So with that, with someone's skills on spreadsheet and maybe some BI tool apply on top, you can do this without, oh my God, now I have to scan the supply. What's the market for inventory management software? And we are small, and that takes so much time. So you can really do this without even an MRP. I'm going that far to say that now. But the point is, yes. So technology, of course, plays a role. Now, for example, that we have experience in managing these, and we know what it takes. Now we are ready, maybe, to go out and either implement that in our ERP, or find an add-on, or find a dedicated software. So my advice would be: don't rush to the technology. Don't rush to the inventory management or whatever. Try to understand better the problem, and you can do that while dealing with it. And if you have a good ERP and someone good at using spreadsheet, you can do that.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you. I actually really enjoyed listening to that, because one of the things I'm very passionate about and always have been is technology comes last. If you can't bring a technology in to solve a problem you don't know, technology won't solve bad data. Technology won't help a poor process. It will, if you've got your ducks in a row, whatever you want to use from an analogy perspective, yeah, automate it or do that. When you grow as a business, when you start to go into additional countries or have more demand and it becomes too much for your headcount, you've got a choice. You duplicate the volume of people you have to increase it, or you look at streamlining that process maybe into technology so that those people doing it can do a better job of making sure that quality still gets there. So it's, I'm 100% aligned with you on that Stefano. Unfortunately, I've seen many businesses make the mistake that they think technology is going to solve the world for them, and it doesn't always do that. So some people get lucky.
Exactly, and then you end up with a kind of patched, a series of software that they do not talk to each other, and
and your internal stakeholders become unhappy. Your supply chain becomes unhappy. Before you know it, you've got demand problems, and you're even impacting the actual running of the business. So that's why that core thing about people and alignment, and I agree with you. Data 100% is so important. Data's there, and when you reference technology, Excel is still technology. It's just it's just a different type of technology, isn't it?
Yes, I mean there are instincts that the one of the main lessons I learned during this growing through a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I had in the operation bottlenecks everywhere, because even in normal time, if you grow 65% in a year, you have bottlenecks. Yeah, and so the first instinct is, let's hire another person there. No, wait, let's automate. Yeah, and the other was, let's reduce cost. Let's find new customer. No, you can manage cash, and so you can maybe renegotiate the payment terms with customers and suppliers. You can bring the stock at the level you need, and so you have cash now that you can put back into the company and use that for growth. So like the usual instinct are find new customers, reduce cost, hire more people, which are like not always you cannot always reconcile them. but before getting to that, and again, especially if you are small, we are a 30 people business. If we hire 3 people, it's 10%.
Yeah. It's significant. It doesn't seem much to some, but it is. But I've really enjoyed this chat. I did want to just one more question on the specific topic. So let's just say, it's very hypothetical, right? But you're in a business, you're operating just in time, you're having demand problems, your supply chain aren't particularly happy. You've heard about this concept of just in time, but how would you analyze sort of moving from one to the other if that is the right course of action? Because you must have done that in your job.
Yes. I mean, this is it depends always what your starting point is. So if you really have a very lean management of your inventory, and basically you need to increase the stock. Yeah. So I think the first thing is to kind of win the mind of the senior management team, because you need to show that, because there are might be issues in the supply chain, maybe the demand is more, is less predictable. Mm-hmm. Then you need to create your buffer, and you need to motivate to show that maybe you have more revenues, but you need to reduce your free cash flow to keep those. So that's the first kind of the business case, if you want, of the just in case. And then as I said, I would start looking at the demand. There is always something you can predict. There is always something you can say, okay, I buy this raw material. It's not only one customer asking for it. Sooner or later, I will sell them. So why should I create myself a problem for something that is so as a high rotation? So it's let's keep some stock, some more stock. And then you have, I think, and usually these are the thing you buy if you look at a year in huge quantities. Mm-hmm. And then you have the recurring ones. Those are more nuanced because they might depend on one client. So you need to really get into the demand and talk to sales. That's the other thing, that this thing helped us really interlock procurement with sales. And I think I mentioned to you this in the past, but in our organization, procurement is not a staff function. Procurement is in the business. I mean procurement for raw material, not for stationery or that.
Yeah.
But the core of procurement is within the business.
Yeah.
And that
the business ultimately manages supply rather than a centralized function.
Exactly, because as a product manager, I was always frustrated by, I had all my discussion with the supplier, new services, new product, and then also negotiating the contract with legal, and then procurement always frustrated because they had to find to add another discount just sometimes for the sake of it. Now, because they were detached from the business. So I don't want to replicate that as long as I have the opportunity to build an organization as I have at the moment, and so I want to avoid that.
Great. Well, that's been super helpful. I've definitely learned some things myself, and I believe you're in a very good position to help educate and share to other people. So they really should look out for what you post and keep an eye on what you're doing. So so thank you. That's been great. There is one question I'd like to ask, because I can see, if I look at work motivations, right, I can see, the sort of things that keeps you going, you're very focused on that, the data, the people, and all those things that you really enjoy. But what about outside of work? What keeps you ticking over day to day? Keeps you happy?
Well, I would say I've always been driven in everything I do by curiosity, and that professionally meant moving to a different country, meant roles, changing industry, and going rogue, as I said earlier, and working in different sectors. And somehow outside is more or less the same. I had many new beginnings in new things, from acting, and actually, by the way, that was what made me win that project about immersive theater, because I kind of was in theater once in my life. To doing sport. I started, if you want, late in my life, doing Japanese jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
And of course, also I have a young family, a daughter growing, and that she's a singer-songwriter, and that makes my life even more interesting.
Great. How exciting to have your children engaged in things that you're also passionate about.
Yeah.
So final question: what was your most enjoyable role that you played in acting? I'd love to know.
Well, I'm telling you this. You decide whether to cut it afterwards. But when I moved to London, I only had one gig in London. It was kind of almost improvised, but I had two roles in the same play, two female prostitutes.
Wow.
And at that time, I had a beard. And I kept it because the role was so absurd. I could exaggerate, and that was fun. Was really fun. I mean, in theater, you always have the opportunity to act and to put something of your inner self in the character, and in this case, there wasn't much about my inner self, so I could really make that bring that to an extreme.
Wonderful. Why would I cut that? That's a great piece of knowledge. It just shows you're certainly not scared of doing things that are outside your box. So that's great. Look, Stefano, it's been great. Really enjoyed the chat. I'm looking forward to continuing speaking to you over the coming year, and I wish you every success for 2025 for the business you're working in, and obviously your own business for future projects. So much appreciated.
You too, and to everyone is attending.